At the same time, ladies and gentlemen, we encourage our participant and our esteemed guests to actually fill up the front row to have a better, shall I say, look at the presentation and, of course, have a better view of the presenter. Once again, those outside, we would like to encourage you to join us right here at Ballroom 301, whereby we're going to start the keynote address in the shortest of time. So yang ini ada dua kan, kita ada moderator and penanda. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning, a very exciting morning, and welcome to Green Legacy Johor Summit 2024. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered here to exchange ideas, open discussion on the said topic, and of course, it is indeed a golden opportunity for each of us to enrich and enlighten ourselves with the subject in particular. Having said that, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed my privilege and pleasure to cordially invite up on stage Yang Berusaha Puan Kamisa Muhammad Ghazali, Head Resilient Environment, Iskandar Regional Development Authority, IRDA, Malaysia, to present the topic entitling Greening Urban Journey Mobility Challenges for the Sustainable Cities. Dipersilakan.
Okay, good morning everyone. I hope everyone have got good breakfast just now and ready for the session. So, okay, all right. Okay, my session today will actually talk about greening urban mobility, greening urban journey, mobility challenges for sustainable cities. Well, to start with, I guess it would be best to share the current scenario in Johor and then look at how we can overcome, these challenges and look at what's already, in the pipeline. But probably my slide will not cover that many aspects, but of course, I welcome question and answer at the end of the session. This is, I think, the main challenges of transportation, of our mobility condition now in Johor Bahru. I think everywhere in Malaysia, we are facing the same thing. And congestion have always been a major issue. And I think after pandemic, we thought that, there will be less travel happening, and then at the same time, people don't actually, because you are being confined in your own home, people don't actually buy cars. But actually after the pandemic, what happened is that car ownership double in Malaysia and double in Johor Bahru. So that makes us think like, this is a very critical issues that we are facing. And we need to find solution. But of course, at that time, I think the government have already taken steps, to look at how to improve public transport, by looking at several mega projects. For example, the RTS, the upgrading of the double tracking project, and also BRT at that point. And again, not only car ownership, we continue to have increase in terms of number of motorcycles in Johor. And this is actually, again, when pandemic ends, people start going back to work and then start traveling back to Singapore. And you can see that every day, thousands of motorcycles actually commute from Johor Bahru to Singapore. And that's still the same today. So, it's actually putting a lot of resources in terms of maintenance, resources in terms of, how to improve air quality at the border, and a lot more issues that have cropped up, because of that. And at the same time, this cross-border congestion not only happens at the Tambak Johor, but it's actually all the way up into the city centers. And in some cases, for example, those using EDL, sometimes it goes all the way back to Pemas Jaya, Pasir Gudang, and so on. So these are putting constraint, And every year, we are looking at how best we can manage this and what would be the solution for these particular issues. And having a lot of cars and also motorcycles on the road, public transportation does not help, I would say, because, we have limited public transport services. We are pretty much dependent on bus services. In Iskandar, Malaysia, we only have bus service, taxis, e-hailing, all right? We don't even, we do have, train services going from Johor Bahru to Singapore at very limited services. So we do not have any other options. So because of that, not many people find public transport really appealing to them because the coverage is limited, the number of services is also limited. And we also have issues over infrastructure. not only infrastructure in terms of, the overall infrastructure that support public transportation, but also walking and cycling. So if you can see here, this is scenario at the city center. It's so difficult to actually walk. You need to get your car to the destination, park your car to go to the complex. You cannot actually park, further outside because it's very difficult to actually walk in the city center. Not only difficult, it's also not that safe. But of course, we have acknowledged, the efforts made by the local council. For instance, like MBJB, yeah? They have made a lot of improvements, especially around city centers, to make sure that, it become a public spaces and it is safe to actually walk. But again, the issue is continuity and seamlessness of the facilities that we have. Okay, hang on a second. Okay. Now, greening urban journey, talking about mobility in Iskandar, Malaysia. Now, how does green mobility ties into Johor long-term goals? All right. So if we look at, there are already documents being established at federal, state, and also at local level. At state government level, we have the Plan Induk Pengangkutan Awam Johor, the Johor Public Transport Master Plan. And that plan, already also have, proposal or recommendation over what can actually be implemented in Johor Bahru or in Iskandar, Malaysia. And Iskandar, Malaysia themselves have their own master plan, which already being integrated into the Johor master plan. And then we also have at federal level, the DASA, the National Transport Policy, National Transport Policy. And there's also another document that is Low Carbon Mobility Blueprint that guides over, the implementation or the rollout of low carbon technology mobility. So from there, for Iskandar, Malaysia, we also have our own low carbon society blueprint that actually guide and providing, guidelines over what would be our achievement. So if we look at that, we have a target of 70% GHG emission reduction, which 34% actually come from the transportation sector. And then, at the same time, the Johor Public Transport Master Plan is looking at achieving the ratio of 60-40 by 2045. 60% public transport and 40%, private transport. So there's already policy that is being set in terms of where we want to go in terms of green mobility or sustainable transportation. And if you look at the Johor Green Deal, this is also another document, although it's actually look at how to realize, a framework to realize the vision of low carbon, sustainable and livable environment. They have 5 pillars, and one of the pillars is actually on transport and mobility. And it sets to actually, it set a stage for a greener and more efficient future. Although if we look at the initiative that they are prioritizing, it focuses on public transport, electric vehicles, and also decarbonizing the maritime transportation. But, it is not limited to just that. Okay, so there are many actually initiatives supporting this with the aspiration of achieving the net zero target by 2050. And if you look at the Johor Public Transport Master Plan, if you look at the what they call the pyramid, they are looking at the integration of public transportation system with other modes of transport, focusing on the first mile and last mile connectivity, and again looking at decarbonization of land transportation. Therefore, pushing for this agenda, I think we have in Johor the public transport corporation that have been tasked to actually deliver this particular strategy and also initiatives. Well, if we go back to green mobility is actually sustainable transportation, which actually focus into the basic access need where it's involved not only infrastructure, it requires supporting policy, it needs to provide the people, the community with safe and secure transportation, and also address social equity. And at the same time, also focus on affordability where it needs to operate efficiently and it needs to provide the option of modes, to the community. And at the same time, consistent to our aspiration towards, reducing our GHG emission and moving towards net zero target, we need to limit in terms of the emission and waste. This means, we need to actually reduce or minimize consumption of non-renewable, energy, for instance, minimize pollution, and this would actually improve health and also minimize use of land, so that land can be used for better purpose rather than to build roads, so that more cars, will actually be on the road. I think this when we were studying transport, I think some of probably the participants here are actually transport planner or been studying transportation in the past as your subject. If you look at Kuala Lumpur, every time they build new highways, less than 5 years, it will be congested. So they build another highway. 5 years, less than 5 years, the same thing happened. And we shall look at Suka soon. How long will it take to actually reach that level of congestion? So probably, building roads is not the answer, but building enough, sufficient enough is what we need to look at. Okay, I think in developing, in greening urban mobility, I think we need to look at, the role of public transport, the role of active transportation, and it needs to be integrated. Public transport, cycling, walking, play crucial role as eco-friendly alternative to cars. This will contribute to reduce greenhouse gas emission, improve urban air quality, and enhance public health. Cities, like Johor Bahru or Iskandar, Malaysia, can promote all this through infrastructure and policies. That's why I am actually very happy, and I want to highlight, currently, Majlis Bandaraya Iskandar Puteri, they have taken the initiative to develop their own public transport master plan, for Iskandar Puteri. And, they look at, because they understand better of their area, So that's the reason when they actually bring their stakeholders, their communities, to look at what the communities want, they have actually, developed a document so they can proceed with the implementation that fit the needs of the community in Iskandar Puteri. So the role of public transport is not only reducing emission, it's not only to actually more, reaching energy efficiency, but it's also reducing congestion. But above that, I think it's about social and economic benefits, affordable mobility, space efficiency, ability to actually reach where you want to be, to reach the education that you want to obtain, the work that you want to be in. So that is important for the community, benefits. So rather than just emission, just congestion, but it's also about the social and economic benefits. Similarly to cycling and also walking, it's about not just zero emission, but also improving public health, where it promotes physical activity, contributing to lower rates of cardiovascular disease, obesity, and stress. And at the same time, cost effective. I think cycling is a low-cost form of transportation that reduces commuting expenses for individuals. But if we build our cities sprawling, there is no way we can actually, integrate much in terms of, reducing your travel kilometers, or, making it as an alternative to cars. Because right now, even for myself, I'm driving from Pasir Gudang and working in Sunway, Iskandar Puteri. That's a long journey. So we have not got, the right density to be able to look at something that is more functional to us. So we are currently pretty much dependent on cars because of the limitation of the transportation system and also access to transportation system. I think another important aspect when we talk about greening urban mobility is actually looking at how urban planning and design, it needs to happen by design actually. If we hope it to happen on its own, organically, then, we are developing, we are sprawling, and then as we move, community would want public transportation, and we provide, let's say, buses to this particular area. If we continue to work like that, okay, there is no economy of scale to the bus operators. There is no economy of scale to actually service certain location because you do not have the mass, to actually make it efficient. So I guess when it comes to urban planning and design, it plays pivotal role in facilitating sustainable mobility by designing compact, mixed-use neighborhood that prioritize accessibility, reduce the need for long commutes, and promote environmentally friendly mode of transportation. Again, walking, cycling, and public transit. And these principles of urban planning can significantly decrease car dependency, lower carbon emission, and improve overall quality of life in the cities. If you talk about, some of the solution on sustainable mobility for compact and mixed-use neighborhood, we can look at TOD, for instance, where we actually develop our cities, to the close to transit hub, and then integrate it with public transit networks, and also provide transit accessible housing. This can easily be seen, at our neighbor side in Singapore. If you go to Singapore, the public transportation is actually integrated with their developments, whether it's actually residential or commercial. So it attracts a lot of users. It is so convenient to actually use public transportation rather than, driving your own cars. Further, I think there is a need to complete streets that are used for all. You see, there is a need for multimodal infrastructure, complete streets that are designed to accommodate all types of users, including pedestrian, cyclists, public transit riders, and drivers. It's not like currently, it's all about the cars, if you can agree with me, in certain places you can see, we have a cycling path that is integrated into the road system, but it's not dedicated, okay? So is it safe? When we fail to provide, such facilities for cycling, for walking, then what happens is that, you see numbers of just unthinkable accident. For example, there was in the news, I think, last week, a Korean tourist probably crossing the road at the Kuala Lumpur International Airport and got hit by the car. And we also have, few years, I think, couple years ago, the incidents over children, if I'm not mistaken, 16 of them hit by a car. Although, people will argue it's a different story, they should not supposed to be there on the highway at 3 a.m. in the morning, joyriding. But again, we did not provide adequate facilities for them to actually, use or do the activities that they want. And that's the reason all this thing happens. So I believe that, pedestrian priority in a compact neighborhood can actually be designed with focus of pedestrian movement, with features like, traffic calming measures, pedestrian zone, and we can minimize parking space to discourage car users. Prioritizing pedestrian access to shop, schools, and transit station creates more walkable environment. And also at the same time, we also have, we can also use the solution of car-free zone. Some cities are experimenting with car-free zone in their central neighborhoods. We do have car-free day, but we don't have car-free zone. So during car-free day, only a few kilometers is dedicated, for cycling or walking. And then after that day, go back to normal. In Bogota, they started it, every weekend, the same thing. They closed the road, for recreational. And over time, some of the roads become car-free. If you look at Oslo is also the same. Their cities, are built car-free so that people can walk. That's why people call Oslo walkable city. Copenhagen, the use of the street for all, they really do it. 97%, of the mode share there is actually cycling. But they do have public transportation that serve for certain purpose. So it works well. So where are we on that note? Would we be able to do that? Cycling and walking now is becoming a trend. We see more and more people cycle, but a lot for recreational. And people will say, Malaysian will not do it, too hot, too humid. But there are people who cycle, funny, this one, cycle to Singapore. We have one of our friends in Miti, cycle to Singapore. In Singapore, you can't cycle on the highway, but he cycled to his office. Then you wonder, should we start looking at this? Should we start looking at this seriously? Local council need to take bold actions. And I know a few local councils is actually really going towards, greening mobility in their areas, and I actually salute them for their efforts. Above that, I think urban policy tools is also important to actually shape sustainable and accessible cities. Policymakers definitely can promote compact, mixed-use neighborhood through variety of tools. For example, zoning reforms. So looking at eliminating single-use zoning, upzoning for density, and then provide incentive for sustainable development. This again, goes back to the role and appetite of the local authorities, okay? And also the various agencies that driving this type of development. And I believe that when it comes to this, we can see several cities around the world that have been implementing these principles. For example, Portland, Oregon, they have successfully promoted compact mixed-use development and encouraged a dense, walkable neighborhood. I saw Puan Maimunah here. We have what you call partnership with Portland, Oregon. Puan Maimunah just come back from Boston, impressed of how they actually do it. They really do it, going beyond car dependency and focusing on a more healthier lifestyle. Barcelona, Spain have introduced what they call super blocks concept, which redesign urban areas to prioritize pedestrian and cycling infrastructure over cars. Singapore, as we know, is also known for its compact urban planning and efficient public transportation. So I guess if we focus on the right way of doing things, start with the right design for the cities, I'm sure we could overcome. Currently, we already move, in the wrong direction with a lot of mess that we make, but it's never too late to actually do something with the new development that we are having. Okay, technology and innovation. When we talk about smart technologies, including real-time transit app, integrated mobility platform, these technologies play pivotal role in enhancing the efficiency, convenience, and attractiveness of sustainable transport option. So currently, if we look at Singapore, for instance, I must talk about Singapore because it's just next door. It's so easy for all of you to actually go experience, their cities, how efficient it is. Their government actually provided grants, offer grants, for those who wants to actually develop application that helps the society, that integrate various mobility modes, A lot of grants is being done, for various purposes. And I think we should actually our government should actually look into this. You know, it's not like we need to support all the startups, the companies that have the ability to do this so that they can deliver and the product can be used, you know, by our local authorities, our local public transport operators, our local public transport coordinators, whatever we call it, you know. It's not like, you know, every time we have to wait for foreigners to actually propose, only then we say the system is good, you know. We have, you know, local talents that can definitely develop this. We have universities who have actually, you know, developed quite a number of applications that can help in terms of, you know, reaching or enhancing the efficiency, convenience, and attractiveness of the sustainable transport option that we have. So there are many definitely application that we can look at, you know, from real-time transit information apps to integrated mobility platform, for instance, mobility as a service. And then smart traffic management and optimization, data-driven urban mobility planning, and all this actually encourage behavioral change because it's improved user experience, and since it's enhanced convenience, it is able to actually shift the mindset and behavior of, you know, commuters. So when they are able, the main problem, I think even 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when we started to talk about developing apps, you know, for transportation, the main reason was we do not have information at that time. So community have got to go out to the bus stop, wait 1 hour, the bus don't come, wait another half hour, the bus don't come, wait another 15 minutes, maybe it will arrive, you know. So we do not have information, otherwise we can plan our journey. But at least now we can see that Google Transit is already there, you know, Move It, and a lot more. Then we can actually Google, oh, if I want to take, you know, so-and-so bus in 5 minutes, it will be at this bus stop. Then we can plan our journey. We know where the bus is. We know what time it will arrive. So that actually will actually change the mindset and behavior of commuters. Then, you know, you will see ridership will start to increase. But who shall take this responsibility to actually coordinate, you know, this type of application being used by the public, you know? Someone need to know what application is available, how I can actually, you know, obtain data from it, how I can use it for better planning in terms of my bus stops, in terms of the new services. So someone have got to take that efforts to actually do it. Currently, it's all by the private sectors, the bus operators, because they will actually use whatever data they collect and then propose to actually the transport SPAD apart. You know, I want to operate these particular routes because they see that, you know, from their survey, from the trend, you know, this area is going to actually have more population in the future, or already have some population and they just need to create more awareness and, you know, start a service. So policymakers need to be, in my opinion, clear of how they want to coordinate this, how they want to integrate the various transportation system from public transport to the active transport. Because by end of the day, you know, if we want to achieve the GHG reduction, we need to increase number of ridership, we need to provide bigger coverage in terms of the services so that, people will move away from their cars. And I think the last factor that is so important is about equity and accessibility. Ensuring that sustainable mobility solutions are equitable and accessible for all, particularly marginalized community, is crucial to fostering inclusivity in the urban transport system. When mobility solutions are designed with equity in mind, they not only help reduce environmental impact, but also address social and economic disparities, enhance quality of life, and promote social cohesion. Addressing mobility gap for marginalized community, there are many ways. I think even Malaysia have taken steps, It's like this 50 ringgit subsidy for public transport given to the B40 group, and I think like in KL even a lot more, and then at the same time, ensuring affordable smart mobility solution. For example, currently we can see like I have to applaud Handalinda, one of our operator. Not only they venture into EV buses, but also at the same time, providing the demand responsive transit, because we know that it's not sustainable, or it's not, I would say, economy of scale is not there at certain area, but they continue to provide services by working with community to provide a demand responsive transit, so people can book, transportation to go from their place to another and share it with, the community within their area. So they have done quite a number of impressive, I would say, solution to actually provide to ensure inclusivity in their services. At the same time, accessible infrastructure for all abilities is important. As you can see in the slide, when people talk about BRT in Curitiba, they laugh. They said, the station is so funny because it's round, it's small, but they have it all. They have a proper ramp into the station, from the bus to the station, and then they are able to cater for strollers, they are able to cater for wheelchair. They have done great, We don't have to have big station when you build a BRT system. They make it functional. That's what's important. So I guess designing accessible infrastructure for all abilities is important when it comes to equity and inclusivity of the system. And then promoting affordability and inclusive mobility policies is also important, which I think Malaysia to some extent they have, but I believe that some of these policies need to be cascaded down, not only especially to local authorities, because they have the power to actually make a difference, especially when it comes to infrastructure development. Fostering social inclusion through mobility, by building, is about building social connection. Public spaces and transportation, is important. Again, we talk about, the options for public to be able to not just transit, to walk, to cycle, and it's not only reduce emission, but also create the opportunities for social interaction. So public transportation in particular serve as social space where people from different backgrounds share the same space, and when well-designed and inclusive, this system can foster a sense of community. When I was studying transport, we studied a lot of cities. And one story about Transmilenio in Bogota, people are so happy, boarding a bus, having, their own time to read, to get to know one another, talk to, the passenger next to them, There was one story whereby a guy met a lady and got married. It's such a romantic, Transportation can be romantic. I didn't know that, but it is. So there's a lot of things that when you focus on, public transportation, public spaces, social interaction, a lot of positive things can come out of it. But we need to make our transportation system safe. So I just want to share some of the case studies. Copenhagen, I think Copenhagen 77% and 97% of their mode share is from cycling. They have good plans. They focus on their bike infrastructure plan. They build new and redesigned street for cycling and walking, And I guess, the key success factor of Copenhagen is that they have clear and safe street, safe cycling, fast bike route. Not just like some of these bus services that we have done before. The bus express transit. That is to actually expedite or reduce traveling time. They also have fast bike route to reduce, travel time. And then they have bike services along the way. Ongoing maintenance is happening, and also innovation to make it more attractive for people to cycle. Maybe in Malaysia, we should be doing that, Innovation, whereby when you cycle, you need to follow the rhythm. Then it becomes fun, Your road, have got some kind of rhythm. So you follow where you want to go. And that would actually, attract more and more people to actually cycle. In the case study of Oslo, car-free city life, they actually go by advocate car-free city life. But of course, their public transport have seamless connection, functionality, and they have a good urban quality, accessibility for cycling and walking. And also, they are also moving into the electric car strategy. And then the last one, Bogota, which I love so much, If you can see, they have, 519 cycling paths and target for 1,000 kilometers of cycle path. And then they have an inclusive bike share system. And then they have 1,485 electric buses, the biggest outside China. One thing about Bogota, their mayor have the kind of leadership that drive the cities toward becoming sustainable cities. That's why they actually are one of the winners, I think even for this year. They have been winners for many, many years, several times, and this year they win again as Sustainable City of the World. Having said that, where are we? Do we have the leadership? Do we have the political will? We have plans. We have plans. So many plans. We need leadership to push it through. We need political will to push it through. Despite the fact, financing is challenging, we just need to find ways to make it happen. Otherwise, I'm asking you a question. Is this the landscape you want to leave to your children? Thank you very much.
Right, once again, thank you very much to Puan Kamisa Muhammad Ghazali, the Head Resilient Environment Iskandar Regional Development Authority, EDA. And of course, Puan, I just remembered what you said. It reminds me of P. Ramlee movie, Seri Maju Laput actually met, sekali tengok dia bisu, so right. Okay, Puan, we have a couple of questions from our audience, whereby some of the questions are, shall I say, intriguing and debatable. For instance, we have from Anonymous, Puan. The question is, how does public perceptions of green mobility impact the intake of eco-friendly transportation option in the city? Let me repeat myself. How does public perception of green mobility impact the uptake of eco-friendly transportation option in the city?
It depends on modes, I guess. If we look at, cycling and walking, it's now going uptrend. Public transportation also is registering more and more what you call ridership compared to 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And in terms of greening the public transportation system, for instance, the buses, our operators now is actually spending a hefty sum to bring in electric buses into the city. Okay. While answering the questions, I also want to express my my regrets on certain things. I hope you guys don't mind. You see, while we are actually developing a transportation system for Iskandar, Malaysia, we actually request public to feedback or to participate so that, your case for action becomes stronger, because it's what the public wants. It's what the community requests for. But when it comes to that, my take for now is that our community, our commuters don't actually care that much, right? Because I think they still love their cars. Maybe they need to reach the level of KL where it took them, 4 hours to work. Only then, they get, they feel the pain. They would want to know more. But right now, that's why when something happens, decision is being made, when the biggest setback or sadness from my side is that because community does not participate. Probably it's also, the agencies also need to do something about it. I think those days, way back 10 years ago, we talked to community, to the young people, giving them a lot of awareness and education. And I think that's continued until today. But feedback from the public is not enough. I'm not saying that it's not there, it's not enough. Okay? Public need to be, you need to express what exactly in your mind, It's not about complaining, this plan won't work. But when we ask, what will work for you? You don't answer. So while answering that question, I also have another, that feel that have been there for quite some time. But I hope that will change. I hope the community will respond better in the future, because this is about your children. We may not feel it. We don't care. We can still drive our car. You see, because it's not that congestion, never mind. But the next 10 years, 20 years, your children is going to actually feel the pain. So, wake up.
Right, once again, thank you very much to Yang Berusaha Puan Kamisa Muhammad Ghazali, the Head Resilient Environment Iskandar Regional Development Authority, EDA, Malaysia. Let's give up a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, ma'am. All right, we know, ladies and gentlemen, well, I encourage, questionnaire. We buy the, QR code that will be displayed on the screen from time to time. And also do snapshot or rather scan the snap site for the summary of the topic being presented or discussed for you to present it to your whatever department for reports and whatever not. And of course, these are AI generated, right? So I encourage for you to actually, in fact, we have quite a number of questionnaire, which is encouraging, and some of the questions are, shall I say, debatable. So I encourage, partakers to actually question as much as you can pertaining to the topic discussed. And of course, so much has been said about, green technologies, good environment. And I agree with yang berusaha Puan Kamisa, sometimes it is all about public participation, because us being the stakeholder, we need to educate ourselves. If the public transport is, let's say, world class, but if we do not take part in the effort, it will be just another effort without being realized to its full potential, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, all right, do stay back, because we have yet another interesting discussion and presentation, whereby, again, all this and more in the Green Legacy Johor Summit 2024. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have the talk and presentation and workshop till about 6 o'clock. I encourage participants or partakers to actually stay till the end of the day. Right, ladies and gentlemen, for the next session, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have the topic we discuss will be the Collaborations Urban Growth Partnership for Sustainable Development and Community Wellbeing. And for this, ladies and gentlemen, may I invite the moderator, yang berusaha Puan Maimunah Jaafar, Director Lead Technology and Innovation, Iskandar Regional Development and Community Wellbeing. Silakan. And ladies and gentlemen, the speaker or the guest speaker for this very exciting morning, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big round of applause to Yang Berhormat Datuk Haji Nur Azam bin Datuk Haji Osman, Mayor Majlis Bandaraya Johor Bahru. Dipersilakan. Let's give a big applause to Yang Berhormat Datuk Bandar kita.
Assalamualaikum and very good morning. I guess we can start this conversation. Again, welcome to the second day of Green Legacy Johor Summit 2024. And I hope everyone has actually gained an insightful day yesterday. Today is actually the second day and tomorrow will be the third day, I think half day. And this fireside chat will actually explore the role of technology and innovation to drive Johor Bahru for a sustainable city. And with that, how are you today, Dato'? Ingatkan tadi tak datang. So, I think before we start today conversation, allow me to do a little bit brief introduction to Johor Bahru sebenarnya. I think everyone kenal Datuk Nur Azam. But just to let everyone know, he actually graduated from Northumbria University, Newcastle, UK, in Bachelor of Arts in Government and Public Policy. Sebab itulah policy power, Datuk. And he joined the Johor Civil Service in May 1991 and become the 12th JB Mayor kan, in year 2021. Yeah. And I think if Dato' don't mind, I want him to introduce himself and maybe share his earlier experience working as Johor civil servant. And I think Dato' has actually been posted in many town actually in Johor. And hope that you can actually share your experience and where you have been posted. And maybe, we go from there, Dato'.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Very good morning. Bahagia Puan Maimunah and also members of the summit. Thank you, first of all, for inviting me onto this fireside chat on the topic of the role of technology in sustainable development for shaping smart cities. Just a bit about myself. Of course, I come from Johor Bahru. I'm a JB boy. I went to school in JB and also in Perak at the boarding school, and I joined the civil service after my father forced me to join the service.
It's in the blood, Dato'?
Yeah, my father was also a civil servant, but that time the trend was not to work in the government, because the trend was everybody grads and everybody works in private sectors and get more money. So I was asked to join the service, and I went for the interview and got the job. Of course, that time the pay was, I think, below B40.
Ciput.
Yes. The salary scale that time was only 1,100 ringgit as an officer in the civil service. But after 34 years in the service, I don't regret a single moment of being in the service. Because being around in the Johor Civil Service has actually exposed me to a lot of discipline, a lot of scope, and the most important thing is to get that satisfaction to see that you can help to transform the state, the district, or the city that you are in. And a lot of things have actually came from observation, experience, and of course learning from people to establish policies, to establish way forward strategies as to develop where Johor is at the moment. So that gives me that satisfaction. And I was made a mayor in August 2021 at the end of the pandemic of COVID-19. And I've been a mayor for more than 3 years now. And I've seen 4 different years, 2021 to 2024, and possibly seeing another year coming through. And we have seen the city from getting out of the COVID-19 pandemic to where it is now, from being there's no cars on the road to having a lot of potholes on the road, and also managing the city which suddenly there was a surge in the population of people who gets into the city. And that is the biggest challenge. And now with the Johor Singapore Economic Zone being talked about, I think being the mayor and the city council, we play a very big role to make sure that the city is ready to accept the influx of investments and the growth of the rate of growth, which is unprecedented. Because I'll be very frank, ever since I joined the city council, our revenue shot up to $500 million within a few years. Of coming from touching 400 to now more than 500 million in terms of revenue collection. But the burden to, even the revenue is big, the burden to spend is also big. And that shows the pressure that is being put by the demand of the environment, the demand of the people to see Johor Bahru being more livable and more attractive. Thank you.
Yeah, Dato', I think in year 2010, we are in the same boat when we established the Johor Bahru Transformation Plan. And I think at that time, rightfully say that 19,000 of people has actually moved out from JBCT, if you Dato' remember, because of the construction of the new CIQ. I think some of you from Johor Bahru, you might remember the flat Lumba Kuda, I think that's what they call it. So those are actually the main population in the city. So I think Dato' idea on how Johor Bahru can actually transform started, I have to say, from year 2010. And I think growing up as a JB city boy and your late father also was actually the one of the early YDP for Perbandaran Johor Bahru in the 70s. How does this influence your leadership? And also how does this influence your vision for growing Johor Bahru city to what it is now?
Okay. Talking about my late father, he was the Yang Dipertua, or the president of the council. That time there was no mayor. Yeah. It was still a municipal council or a city council. It's not even a city council, it's a town council. Town council as the president of town council in 1973. So I became a mayor in 2021. So that's a long time. But I mean, my father always talks to me and tells what he does and explain why this is like that, this is like this during mealtime, because that's the only time I'm around at home. So during dinner especially, he will tell me and talk about the past and how JB has a lot of potential to further even grow. So I mentioned in many of my talks that if you look back at, people are talking about RTS being the game changer for Johor Bahru. I think this happened 100 years ago when Causeway was constructed. That was the game changer to grow the city of Johor Bahru. And now with the RTS, another episode came into the picture on how do we actually adapt and expand the role of Johor Bahru in the context of being the focal point for Asia. And we do know that I see this potential when I was in Japan. I was 14 years in the economic planning unit. I left economic planning unit in 2013. And we saw that time that JB needs to transform. And I think we work a lot with IRDA to look at a lot of policy structure that needs to be revamped and needs to be revived and also reorganized back in terms of the housing policy, in terms of boosting the CBD of the city, and also putting in infrastructure where it needs to be. And see, a lot of what you see now, the infrastructure, the roads, even Sungai Segit for that matter, came during that time when we sat down and planned, and true enough, that becomes a focal point for the city as a tourist destination. And I really feel that there's a lot more to do. I mean, JB is not saturated yet. Of course, JB at the moment is a work in progress city. See everyone is working, everyone is developing, all construction is happening here and there. I think by the time we settle down, you will see the true potential of Johor Bahru and how it can actually be more a city being its original self. I always promote the idea of originality. Being a city, we don't have to be someone else. We need to be sustainable, yes. We need to put in the right things, but we need to maintain our originality of Johor Bahru as a city, as the Ibu Negeri of Johor Bahru. Johor, sorry.
Yeah, and I think from since I've known Dato', I think, and also from observation, Dato' is well known as a visionary mayor. So I think we are kind of glad that Dato' has actually accepted that position. And Dato' is also very vocal in forwarding your agenda to the higher leadership. I think, as you know, Dato' has attended many conferences, summit, trying to get across those messages of what a city should be and how a city should behave. But I know Dato' have challenges. So what surprises you most about your position as Johor Bahru Mayor?
You see, the first thing that in my inaugural speech as a mayor, when I angkat sumpah that time, I told the Majlis Bandaraya people in my speech that MPJB is the city. You cannot separate MPJB from the city. MPJB is Johor Bahru, Johor Bahru is MPJB. Because if you don't think as a JB, as a Johor Bahru, you will not be able to, orang kata, menghayati the role of MPJB itself to be in line with the growth of JB. Because Johor Bahru is expanding naturally. MPJB has got to expand naturally also in tandem with the growth of the city. And we have to anticipate and see what needs to be put in the, as an effect or in the event of seeing how the growth goes. So this is where I think everyone in Majlis Bandaraya has to have that mindset. So that we have to love the city. We cannot work like we are from Semparengam or Segamat, because Johor Bahru is unique in its own character and its own, and I think in Malaysia now, it's the highest in terms of the growth rate that we see as a city. If we got, I mean, big cities in Malaysia, there's Penang, there's Kuala Lumpur, there's Ipoh, but everyone grows differently. But for JB, because it is situated at the southernmost tip of Asia, is the gateway to Malaysia, and it will be in effect of what happens in Singapore. We cannot deny that JB's role as a city is dependent a lot on what we see happen across the causeway.
Yeah, and I think Johor Bahru City has actually a very huge responsibilities to bring the image of Malaysia, because this is where the gateway to Malaysia from Singapore. I think the tanggungjawab is huge, but when looking at other cities, I think Dato' talks about other cities as well. Dato' has a vision to actually looks at how the teamwork, the partnership from cities that is in close proximity to Johor Bahru. For example, you have Iskandar Puteri, we have Pasir Gudang, and we have Kulai. And Dato' has actually translated it well into Greater Johor Bahru. I think Dato' started to talk and discuss with other mayor and YDP to see how they can actually work together in a platform where they call Greater Johor Bahru. So what's actually inspired that? And can Datuk share a little bit on the concept of Greater Johor Bahru and how you intend to do it?
Okay, if you go back in history, the city that was in Johor was just Johor Bahru.
Yeah.
There was no Pasir Gudang, there was no Iskandar Puteri. And let me put on record here, the name Iskandar Puteri actually refers to Johor Bahru. You see, when Sultan Abu Bakar opened this city, he named where we are, the Bukit Timbalan area, Tanjung Puteri, as Iskandar Puteri. But now Iskandar Putri is on the other side. So, and Kulai has always been part of Johor Bahru. It was a sub-district, and it is part of Johor Bahru. And naturally, if you go back, even before Iskandar Malaysia days, this was pre-2006, when I was in the economic planning unit, our economic plan was looking at a growth triangle. And that growth triangle is where the Senai Airport is, PTP on the west, and Pasir Gudang on the east. So naturally, Johor Bahru has this triangle which becomes the economic driver for the state of Johor. And I think there's no place in Malaysia which has a coastline from the east to the west. And we do have the causeway as the entry point, and we have a lot of other entry points as in the airport, as in the ports, and now we have 3 ports actually. PTP, Pasir Gudang, and Tanjung Lansat. And of course, there's other private jetties that is being as an entry point like Belungku, Stulang. These are entry points where people from outside comes into Johor. And by looking at what Singapore, you see, Singapore as an island nation, Singapore is a city-state. The whole island is, the PM's like the mayor of the whole city. So we are not trying to compete, but I think in putting ourselves and benchmarking ourselves nearer to where they are, we have to come together as one. And that's where the idea of Greater Johor Bahru comes into play. In the future, of course, there might be, we don't know, if the law allows, we can become something like Greater London, where you have one super mayor as the Greater JB to lead.
Maybe it's possible, kan?
Yes, it's something, nothing is impossible. So I would foresee before you get to that as the end game, I mean, Greater Johor Bahru, we need to sit down with all the 4 councils. You know, now we have Iskandar Putri, Pasir Gudang, and also Kulai. Kulai is fast growing in terms of its revenue and in terms of its development. Now we have a lot of development coming in anticipation of the economic zone and things like that. So we need to come together to establish a single platform for people to actually do services with the local authorities, for example. And we need to plan accordingly. We need to have a balanced plan of development. We cannot be doing and competing among ourselves in the south of Johor, between Pasir Gudang. So everyone wants to do something, this guy will do it. It just becomes like Tom Yum shop, You have one Tom Yum there and a lot more Tom Yum coming in. So we cannot do that. We have to go on efficiency. We have to look at how do we spend wisely on infrastructure and how do we save costs by coming in together and planning things together. So this is where the idea comes from, and in addressing issues of climate, in addressing smart city, on how do we develop, I think we cannot do it alone. Because, for example, like climate change and smart and environment issues, it knows no border. So we have to sit down and get ourselves together to see how we can make this region, it's kind of Malaysia as well actually, as attractive as possible for people to come, work, live and play and make it more livable.
And I think, even when we talk about Iskandar Malaysia vision, it will not be realized if the local authorities has not actually do the right implementation on the ground. Because for Iskandar Malaysia, we can actually develop policies, vision and things like that. But we actually need the people in the local authorities to actually implement some of this agenda. And I think I would also want to invite the audience into this conversation. Maybe the organizer can actually open the Slido so that you can actually post whatever question that you want so that we can pick some of it later. So I think Dato' talks about innovation, talk about technology. So some of the key programs between, I think for Greater Johor Bahru includes utilizing and optimize technology and digital. I think this is actually the theme that was actually given to us in cities operation. And can Datuk share what are some of the projects and maybe some of the status to date?
Okay, I think everyone is doing a lot of their role in developing smart city using Internet of Things, AI, in their day-to-day work. Number one, I think the key to being a smart city is to actually look at digitalizing the process within the authority itself. So digitalizing process is to make sure that people are easy to be doing business with the local authority, and making it, cutting all the risks and also cutting all the costs that people have to bear in terms of getting the best and the most quality service from the authority. So in that sense, I would look internally on how to manage this digitalization process within the authority. Externally, I think everyone is looking at the smart city concept. So we cannot have a smart system which Pasir Gudang has its own, MJB has its own. We'll get the haywire in terms of traffic light system, for example. So we need a seamless planning in terms of developing the digital components of being a smart city. And we start off with putting in AI cameras in the city as part of giving the confidence and also helping on the safe city concept. And at the moment, as I speak, we have already installed 500 AI cameras in Johor Bahru itself. And this is all linked to our command center, which sits in our Menara MPJB building in Bukit Senyum. And it has helped because that AI features, there's 15 AI features that we use. It has helped to detect, for example, like sampah on the road, by the roadside. It has helped to detect potholes. It has helped to detect funny movements of people, crimes happening, and also looking at the traffic situation. So I just want to share, if you remember, there was a kidnapping case of a small little girl in, I think, Bukit Indah or something, in Eco Botani.
Yeah.
So they managed to solve the case after viewing some of the CCTV records in MPJB, actually. So they managed to get the culprit in Batang Gading.
So ada good case for it lah.
Yes.
Okay.
It has proven, and we have helped to solve murder cases and also drug cases, as well as the most everyday things that are happening is the traffic cases. So at least for a start, we know we have done something to further enhance the city. Because before this project was done, MPJB only has 99 CCTV cameras without brain. It's just a camera.
Just view lah.
Just view. Yeah. So now we have 500 AI CCTVs, and the best case in terms of population, kalau kita nak jadi macam Singapore, Singapore has 110,000 CCTVs compared to ours 500.
So bila nak sampai to that level?
Okay, for our level, for Johor Bahru only, I think we need 34,000. But at least we start somewhere, so we need another 33,500 cameras, which needs to be installed if you want to take one in terms of the density of the population per camera. So, but I think moving forward, this is where the public-private partnership needs to happen. We need to further work with the private sectors, with developers, with communities, to actually install cameras which shares the same capacity as MPJB and link it up to our command center. That's one way to do it. And I also encourage developers to install the cameras in their developments, and it can be deducted from the ISF that we impose on them. So that will also further help to expedite the rolling out of more cameras in the city. So these are something that we need to do. I'm not sure whether we can achieve 34,000, but at least even with 500, we have to manage to address a lot of issues.
Yeah. So in the audience, ada developer? Kalau ada developer, maybe you can raise your hand. I guess, Datuk Bandar is opening for partnership and also solution provider perhaps. And I think all of you should take this opportunity and maybe after this can talk to the mayor. So I think when we talk about what Johor Bahru has actually put in place some of these innovation, and of course it is for the sake of the communities. And I think Dato' also explained that the communities will benefit from all of this in terms of safety, public surveillance and things like that. So when we talk about smart city, Johor Bahru has also recently completed the smart city roadmap. So what would be the focus area actually in the Johor Bahru Smart City roadmap? Maybe the audience wants to know so that they can also participate in some of the program.
Okay, I think smart city is a very wide connotation. In terms of where we are, we have passed the first stage because Plan Malaysia has put in 5 stages that a city needs to go through before it becomes a full-fledged smart city. And we are already at the second stage for Johor Bahru. And the second stage, I think in Malaysia there's only 1 or 2 which has gone to that second stage. And I'm proud to say Johor Bahru is one of them. Yeah. And in terms of fulfilling the requirements of being a smart city, there are like 130 characteristics that you need to fulfill to become a full-fledged smart city. And I think if you take here and there, we have actually, even though we are not at the 3rd stage yet, but I think there are certain things that we have actually bypassed to the 3rd stage and 4th stage that we have done. So I think the potential to become one like Singapore is there. I'm not saying that it's not possible, because I think Singapore is among, I think they have been number 1 before as a smart city. And I think they are at least
looking at smart nation.
Smart nation now. They are at least number 5 in the world now. Yeah. So Johor Bahru, where my room is every day, I look at Singapore more than JB because my room faces Singapore. So I get inspired as well to see that one day Johor Bahru can become as advanced as we are, but keeping the originality of Johor Bahru. I always stress that we need to maintain our natural fabric of Johor Bahru, its character, and we don't lose that.
So you're talking about the heritage, the culture.
Yes,
and
the heritage, culture, the mindset.
The identity of Johor people.
The identity,
and so
yes.
Okay.
So, as a smart city roadmap for Johor JB, we have actually started off by putting in our GIS. If you look at our portal, there's a thing called GeoJB. There's more than 130 layers of data that can be extracted from the GeoJB. And it's all linked up to the command center. And I think the public can easily access more than 70 layers of data that they want to know if they access through the GeoJB portal. And this is an initiative that is in line, and we try to stitch this together with the idea of the command center. And we try to get as much data as possible. I think being a city that needs to develop faster than the city, being the authority needs to have a very strong mindset, advanced in terms of seeing the city, we need to see the trend. We need to be making data-based decision-makings and policy. So this is where all data, of course, we are trying to very hard to slowly establish this data-based decision-making as a trend that we should be doing. And of course, you know, in the government, getting data officers, crunching data is something which is not a trend in the government, but we try to work with private sectors who can assist us.
And I think I'm glad to hear that Dato' actually a believer in in innovation, technology and so forth. So I guess there are many challenges that Datuk has to face. And I think when we look at technology, it's actually a tool, Datuk?
Yes.
Technology is actually a tool to make sure that we can actually achieve the sustainable targets for the city. But before Datuk can share some of the future projects, what are the main challenges that MBJB has to face in doing this new innovation and technology in overall city management?
Okay, number one, I think if you talk about challenges, is to change the way we work, the process. You see, the government has a lot of guidelines, policies, circulars that you know. You see, we work with using circulars, guidelines, and tata cara kerja lah. And when you talk about digitalization, it does not rhyme and jive in. Because you will end up doing a manual digital kind of process. In fact, now if you look at the submission of the OSC, One Stop Center for Development, you have to submit online, but you still have to send one hard copy to the authority. So this is what we need to do, is to completely revamp the circular, the tata cara kerja, maybe some part of the law, for us to really convert ourselves into digital way of doing things.
Yeah.
Then only we can deliver a paperless output of things for the people. And that helps to reduce the processing time, the sharing of information in between departments, even though internally. So this is the part we are already doing it, to have sharing of information even within departments inside MPJB. So this is to help for public to, when they do their submissions in MPJB, to reduce down. If normally you need 10 documents, now you just need 3 documents. Because all the information that they had, previous informations are all within the record of MPJB. So we just need to digitize that and have a common sharing of things in between departments. And if you, that to me is key. Number 2, my second challenge is of course financing. We, of course, the budget that needs to be put for changing the digitalizing agenda is big. So we need to find creative ways of doing this. And this is where I see that private-public partnership needs to come into place. Yeah. And I think we should change from a CAPEX model into an OPEX model. Meaning to say, if I buy something, I may have to maintain. But if I go on the OPEX model, I can just subscribe and actually enjoy any changes in terms of technology and things like that. So these are the 2 important things which need. And I think number 3 is very key, which is the political will.
Yeah, I think Kamisa also just now talked about political will. So this is something that maybe Datuk can highlight a little bit.
Okay. You see, being authority, we are at the 3 feet level. Local authority is at 3 kaki je. The government, I mean, I used to work in UPenn for 14 years. So I was like, that time at maybe 15,000 feet lah. And the federal government, of course, they are at 30,000 feet. So they have to have a very clear governance and policy to ensure that the agenda of digitalization, being a smart city, can be done. If you don't put the governance part in place, I mean, you talk about ESG, environmental, social governance. If the governance is not, no one's going to follow. That is human punya behavior. If it doesn't become law, it doesn't become a practice. So the law, the governance part needs to be in place. Then the political will to change and do this. And channeling the right kind of funds to actually establishing a seamless way and looking at the laws on how this working in silo kind of position can be eradicated, and having the sharing of information and knowledge.
Yeah.
So these are the 3, I mean, these are to me key.
Yeah. So I guess I want to close the question part of on the Slido, but I want to look at some of the interesting question that the audience has actually posted in the Slido. So one of it is actually how do you manage community expectation on city council responsibilities? I think in terms of city tanggungjawab city banyak. So how do you manage community punya expectation?
You see, Malaysia is being designed to have too many levels of government and too many levels of authority. And that's Malaysia. I mean, we have to live with it because the constitution, the formation, there's federal government, state government, and local government. And if you ask me, another level of government is always the JLC. The government-linked companies are the fourth level of government. And when public expectation, when they look at what things that happen in the city, the first thing that comes to mind is the local authority. Ini MPJB lah punya kerja.
Komplain semua datang.
Komplain sama MPJB, anjing ke, kucing ke, lembu ke.
Dia tak kisah.
Jalan rosak ke, it's all MPJB. But they don't really know there are different scopes of authorities that is being done at the ground level. For example, the roads maintenance is all being done by concessionaires. MPJB does not do road maintenance anymore, except for in helping to facilitate the missing links that they miss. So these are the things that people don't know. And there are roads that belongs to JKR. There are roads that belongs to the city council.
So they complain juga kat.
They complain. If you look at the inner ring road, that one is all JKR. The town roads, the PERSADA, of course MPJB lah.
Yeah.
But the maintenance also pun sama. When it's MPJB's road, it's not maintained by NJB anymore. It's maintained by a concessionaire. So this is the part where getting the public to understand the role of a local authority is not easy. But I think after 3 years being as a mayor, I'm so used to getting criticized and kena maki lah. So, I mean, this is where we need to engage. We need to make people understand the issues.
Yeah.
But I think, as I say, I told my people, even though it's not us, let's just do something to address. And we have helped a lot actually in helping JKR roads to be tutup ke.
And river as well, right?
The river as well. And we know that we have this thing called squad kilat, which addresses immediate issues. When we get aduan, our squad kilat will go down, especially after heavy thunderstorm, pokok tombang, things like that. This will be the first level of response coming from BJP.
Dulu ada pasukan ninja kan? Masih ada?
Ninja is
Something like
police,
that.
I think.
Oh, police, okay.
Police. So we have squad kilat. I think it was established during my time.
Okay.
We get all our team together. We'll be the first one to be on the ground if there's, for example, flash floods. Kadang-kadang the small drains will get blocked, things like that. This will be the people that's down there to address the issue.
So I think the second question is actually they wanted to know the role of Johor State in Greater JB. So ada ke, tak ada ke, ataupun what will be your expectation from Johor State? Saya tak tahu whether today ada tak wakil daripada State of Johor, but maybe we want to hear.
Okay, you see, this Greater JB is not just our agenda.
Yeah.
It is not just the local authorities' agenda. Greater JB needs to be coordinated at one level up. In this case, it should be the state government. And Greater JB should be the agenda of the state. Because you are talking about an economic zone, you're talking about growth, you're talking about the society. It has to be a joint effort coming together with a strong political will being pushed to establish this Greater JB agenda. So if we don't just do it on our own, there's no leader. See, the mayor of JB and the mayor of Skandarpuri is same level.
Yeah.
You need to actually have one level up to drive this agenda. So I would say things are getting there slowly. Hopefully, but hopefully it will actually be seen as a very important agenda to make Johor Bahru more livable and a good place for investment.
And I think the last part of this today fire chat is talking about future, yeah. But I think I want to raise one question from the Slido talking about future. So the question is, JB City Centre is getting congested. Is there any plan such as designated parking space and sheltered walkway at City Centre or shuttle? I think shuttle dah ada, but maybe Datuk want to elaborate how it works.
Okay, as I mentioned just now, JB is a work in progress city at the moment. We have the R3S, which is only be ready at the end of 2026. End of 2026. And 2027 will be the RTS happening. And this RTS, I'm sure, will not, number one, settle the issue of the Singapore traffic back from Malaysia to Singapore. And the Singapore traffic coming in from Singapore into Malaysia. Because people don't take the RTS to go to Port Dickson, to go to KL. What we need, and we really need, is actually a traffic dispersal plan for public transport, which allows the movement of people coming into Johor Bahru and they park their cars outside of the city. We need a lot of these park and ride facilities. And in view of, even now, we are not sure whether it's LRT, ART ke apa T ke.
Whatever T,
Yeah, and that will take a few more years before that comes into place. But I'm glad that I mooted this idea and talked to MOT that we need to have a commuter service. So by end of this year, the double track will be ready. We hope to see by next year, a commuter service will be provided from Palo, not just Kluang. Palo ni a bit north of Kluang because itu tempat kereta api U-turn. From Palo until Johor Bahru, and the talk that we had, every hour there will be 2 services. So meaning to say there will be like more than 30 services to Kluang a day. And it will take only 1 hour to get from Kluang into JB Central. So we hope more people who work in Singapore, not just stay in JB, but also can stay outside in Kulai, and even in Sedenak for that matter, and park their cars and don't bring the cars into the city. You see, at the moment, every day in the city, I mean, Malaysians who work in Singapore, they go in very early in the morning. You see, you wake up, you naik motor pukul 6:30 pagi, you turn pusing bandar, semua tempat parking sudah penuh. Because people start to park. And some, they have dare to complain to me why MPJB's apps on parking does not start at 6. I said, no. If you start doing that, more people will park into the city.
Yeah.
And those who city goers into the city will not have parking punya space. So, I mean, don't put the blame on the authority, but this is what we should actually address to see the behavior change.
The force change lah.
Force change. If we put enough infrastructure to get people out, not into the city. Getting into the city, see, the KPI should be people wearing suit, take the public transport. That should be the KPI.
Yeah.
It's not converting those who go on the bus into the ALT. This is to have more people. Even the mayor will go to the office using a public transport. That should be the...
But you can jalan actually kan from your house.
Dalam rumah dekat je.
Or naik basikal.
Tapi
Maybe
berpeluh
we can have the first mayor who cycle to work.
Actually now, because it's too busy, even though I stay in Tulang, my office is in Bukit Senyum, I think there's a very high risk of accident because of so I better go on the car.
Okay. So I think there are many things that the city council has to look at. And I want to open another Slido. I think can organizer do that to give some feedback. What actually matters to you? What are the things that you all rasa that the mayor should know? And maybe some of it, maybe the mayor can take action. So I think let's take this opportunity to put in your concern and feedback on what are the critical items that you think mayor should look at. I think, can we change the Slido? So I think when we talk about utilizing digital technology, since year 2017, so I think Johor is a little bit slow in embracing the agenda, unlike Selangor and Sarawak State. And Dato' has also been invited to talk in Selangor, have conversation with KL Mayor, talks in Melaka, Perak and so forth. So what can you learn actually from them?
I think the thing when you talk about establishing agendas, for example, like the digital agenda, you need focus. We cannot be all over the place. And this is something that even if the government changes, needs to be done. So it cannot be, you cannot lose focus. I mean, before this, we already have a digital master plan called the Digital Johor. And there was supposed to be a regulatory body established by the state to look at not only coordinating a digital agenda, but also the telecommunication agenda. You see now, you see a lot of this laying of fibers being done uncontrollably. People just come and korek and apply for MBJB. But there's no proper plan and no one knows what's under the ground. So these are the part where we need to really gather the records. And I would like to see JB having a more organized trunking system for utilities, whether it's fiber, SAG, or at least within the CBD area. And so that we don't need to have this issue of korek sana, korek sini when it needs to be done. So I would like to see a very clear policy being embraced by all levels, from the state down to the local authority and also to all departments within the state. So this has to be done, like I mentioned just now, as a political will, because if we don't do this, we will not grow in tandem with what our agenda needs to do. Because we don't want to be moving very fast at the ground level, but the top is still behind. So I'm being very vocal in that sense.
So actually, a few years back, we have actually formed that council. And I think Dato' also stressed that governance needs to be in place. And I think when we talk about Selangor, for example, they also have their Menteri Besar incorporated. So will that be something that state should look at actually?
You see, previously, in my previous post, I was a CEO of KPRJ, Kumpulan PERSADA Rakyat Johor, prior to before becoming a mayor. I was there for 3 years, and that was a different era. And the focus that time was to make digital agenda as a very key agenda for the state. And KPRJ was mandated to look into it. I think we work closely also with the state to establish this digital agenda, which looks at a lot of holistically a lot of angles on how to address this issue. But as I mentioned just now, we cannot be losing focus when changes happen. So that has not really been...
Kita dah tukar Menteri Besar quite...
Yeah. But that has been the case. And not only that, I think the government changed also that time from government into a new government. So I would want to see this being carried through accordingly again. And I think we're still not too late to be doing it.
Okay. I think we should take note on that. And I think last 2 years last year when Plan Malaysia put in the Johor Smart City Forum, one of the 7 resolution ada 2 benda lah. One is actually to reactivate the digital Johor Master Plan, and the second one is to continue the digital council that was formed earlier. So I guess these 2 items will not be missing, Dato'.
Yes.
And this year, under the Smart City Forum by Plan Malaysia, this thing has been raised up again. And I hope next year when Plan Malaysia did the Smart City Forum 2025, I hope this can be resolved at that time. So having said that, Dato', I think audience has actually posed some of their concern that they want Dato' to look at. And I think one of the most item that they want to look at is actually traffic jam at city centre. So bila agaknya we can get all the traffic jams resolved?
Okay, one way to resolve, I mentioned just now, is to resolve by putting in the public transport system. And also not getting more cars into the city. Investing into technology system to make sure the traffic light system is very, very smart. And looking at how to further, orang kata, get a lot of decentralizing some of the services outside the city.
Yeah.
Establishing 20-minute cities within the conurbation of Greater Johor Bahru. Meaning to say, there'll be people who work in Bandar Dato' On, stay in Dato' On, and can do their business in Dato' On, and buy things in Dato' On, and shop in Dato' On.
Decentralized.
Decentralizing the city. Keeping Johor Bahru naturally as Johor Bahru is key.
Yeah.
But I think we need to look at moving things out. I mean, I'm not being selfish. There's a lot more areas for development in Iskandar Putri, for example, which is undeveloped yet, the potential. But still people like to come to Johor Bahru. People still like to come into, I mean, Singaporeans will of course have to pass through Johor Bahru, but we got no choice but to further take things out by investing in public transportation system and also decentralizing some of the what services that you need for the city. So this to me is a long haul, a long-term plan, but addressing the current issue, I have to minta maaf. I can't do much because it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
RTS is going to, for example, dalam bandar, RTS is going to develop the interchanges. So there will be closure of road. But I'm trying to tell you that we are also looking at relocating the Bazar Karat. If you come into Johor Bahru at night, Bazar Karat ni lah punca jam lah. Kita tengah tengok how best to relocate and where it should land eventually after RTS is ready. So we are trying to see also, we are putting attractions into the city, but we will do it, addressing it with using shuttle services. For example, like now, the hype is the zoo. MPJB is giving our service by putting in buses to transfer loads of people, these zoo goers, to the zoo by parking at the jail. So these are the things that, but you see, you look in the morning kat jail tu, orang kerja Singapore dah start park. Even in dataran, people park. So what can we say?
Yeah.
Until and when the RTS is ready, maybe that will help to reduce a bit. But still, people who go and use this RTS, they need to park their car somewhere.
Yeah.
That's another big issue. So I have to say that within this next few years, this is something which we need to face until and when a lot of these infrastructures are ready.
There are more feedback. Datuk tak perlu jawab semua. But I just want to share. One of it is actually river cleanliness. And also ada juga comment on not enough trash bins actually. Bins ni sebenarnya tanggungjawab local authority ke atau apa?
Okay, let me explain. I think this is where people got us wrong. When the Act of 133 Act was established in 1993, there was an act. It transfers the role of public cleanliness, angkat sampah, kebersihan, to the federal government. And under the Solid Waste Corporation, ataupun
SWM.
SWM is the concessionaire.
Oh, okay.
Perbadanan Sisa Pepejal. So, the powers on regarding kebersihan has already fallen to that authority.
Tapi orang tak tahu.
Orang tak tahu.
Orang komplain juga.
Bila orang tahu sampah dia, orang komplain bandaraya.
Yeah.
You see, I transferred, I think more than 1,000 of my staff into SWM those days, when SWM was established. So there was already the transferring of the responsibility from the local authority to the federal authority. So, but we still, like I mentioned just now, we got no choice, but we still have to be doing some of the things ourselves, because when public starts to complain. Itu soal kebersihan. Soal tadi lagi satu pasal apa?
Pasal river cleanliness.
River cleanliness. Yeah. Okay. River cleanliness, the one that falls under MPJB clearly, there's 3 main rivers kat Johor ni. Sungai Skudai, Sungai Tebrau, Sungai Segit. Yang totally fall under MPJB clearly is Sungai Segit saja.
Itu sahaja
Yes.
Sungai lain
Sungai
under JPS.
Tebrau, Sungai Skudai is all under JPS, but the cleaning part is being done by us. We have to step in to come in to do the cleaning. If you see the sampah-sampah yang orang kutip semua tu, we still have to do it. So, meaning to say kita ni MPJB ni akan jadi pak sanggup lah kepada banyak benda dalam hal yang berkaitan dengan public.
Yeah.
So people have to understand that we are sacrificing a lot. This is where I say just now, I don't regret a bit being in the civil service, because I think it's not about the pay, it's about satisfaction, it's about getting the keberkatan pahala lah. As a fardu kifayah punya, fardu kifayah punya agency.
Yeah. Okay, I think our time is about there, our MC. But I just want to continue to share what is actually the concern. The next one, but no need to answer, Datuk, no need to answer. Next one is illegal parking, homeless people in the city area. We are talking about walkable city, facility for people to walk, and cycling as well. And we are talking about maybe, this is suggestion, maybe Johor Bahru can use drones, perhaps, to improve smart city management in traffic, infrastructure and public safety. And I think this is where mungkin digital twin can come into place. And some of the suggestion also include maybe to make the JB city vibrant, maybe we need additional pull factor to bring people to come to JB and do activities. And so far, event like JB Car Free Day, and I think the other day we also collaborate on Kereta Api Sarong and so forth, that actually bring people to the city. And I think one of the things that they suggest that maybe JB should enforce more buildings, sustainable buildings, especially in the new development. And other concern is actually aging population. I think JB City as an old town, you have more the warga emas actually. So what are the facilities that maybe you want to put to make sure that they are there? And another one is actually to see how we can actually make sure that, again, just now Datuk talk about public transport, how we want to make sure that public transport will become the key agenda for the city. I think the time is about there, Datuk. I think maybe one last remarks.
Okay, I think my last remark is, how do we make JB sustainable? How do you make JB livable under the current circumstances of things which is happening around us? I think it's been mentioned just now about the aging society. I think JB is not just really aging. Singapore is very muchly and very aging in terms of their population. They have 6-7 million of population. Only 2 million are from local Singaporeans. The rest are expatriates. And 25% of their population is 65 and above. 25%. And that's a big number. And we also believe that because the cost of living in Singapore is too high, many may come and they settle down in JB.
So they might plan for them to come and stay
So
here.
this is something which we foresee,
Yeah.
not just in our local population, but we foresee that more older people will come
We
instead
have
of
more
younger
expats
people.
lah.
More expats as well, maybe. I think so. So sustainable needs to be seen as a very important agenda. Smart city is part of sustainability. Climate change is part of sustainability. And this has to be, I mentioned just now, just to sum up, as the main agenda of the state. And having this seminar, Green Legacy, is good as an awareness to see the importance of sustainable agenda being put through and being practiced. And more people should be embracing this agenda. And being Malaysians, I think you need the cane. You need to put the laws in place to make sure that people follow the sustainable agenda as in green buildings and things like that. So thank you very much.
Great.
I think that should sum up my blabbering this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Dato', for spending your time with us today. I wish you all the best. I hope there are more years to come. Don't go anywhere, please. And thank you to the audience in participating, and I hope that you have a fruitful session today as well as tomorrow. Let's have another round of applause to our participants. Thank you, Dato'.
Right, once again, we would like to extend our appreciation and say thank you to Yang Berhormat the Mayor of Majlis Bandaraya Johor Bahru, Yang Berhormat Datuk Haji Muhammad Nur Azam bin Datuk Haji Osman, and of course thank you also to the moderator Yang Berusaha Puan Maimunah Jaafar, the Director Lead Technology and Innovation, Iskandar Regional Development and Community Wellbeing. Right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a coffee break and of course be back at the ballroom by 11:30, whereby a more exciting topic to be presented and of course to be discussed. And of course among them we have the leveraging Article 6 to enhance credibility and effectiveness of voluntary carbon market among the topic that will be presented immediately at about 11:30. So meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy the coffee break and be sure to join us back at 11:30 and more. And of course, from what I have heard, and of course from what most of it have heard, right, we are very, shall I say, fortunate to be bestowed by the dynamic people in the both the local states level. Among them, of course, Yang Berhormat Datuk Bandar has always, presented to us, informed us of the, shall I say, vision, foresight, expectation and limitation of the Majlis Bandaraya Johor Bahru. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy your coffee break and be sure to be back here by 11:30. Thank you.